I'm sitting with Bart Kline of Richmond Machinery and Welding, and we are in Bethlehem Township. And thank you so much for allowing us to interview you and talk about a little bit about what you do. When I think of welding, I think of melding metals together with heat. Is that a pretty good definition?
It's a good definition.
Yes, or flash dance.
Yeah.
Because I'm an 80s person and I think of Jennifer Beals.
Right, that's right. That's
welding
right. That's right.
in Pittsburgh.
Right.
So, and I also, you have a great website, and I went to your website and I read a little bit about the history. So many questions for you. Why don't you just kind of sum up what you do here, what you make, what you create, and then I'll have some detailed questions.
Sure. Let me just comment on one thing that you said so far,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Of course.
So you talked about education in college, and education takes on many forms. So if you have to define education, does education mean an advanced degree? Does education mean knowing your field? Everything associated with what you're doing. So I find it a little degrading sometimes when politicians or people will divide up voting groups and they'll say the educated versus the non-educated. I have people in our shop that didn't go to college, but I guarantee are smarter, and know their field better than people that went to college. If you love what you do, it's much more important than going to school, I think.
Yeah.
And getting a degree necessarily doing something you don't really want to be doing.
Right. I think that's a theme that has come out in the previous interviews that I've done too.
Yeah, right.
And also the lots of times when people have a career and they're in their 30s or 40s or 50s, how they got there is they never thought they would be doing what they were doing.
Oh, I sure did.
So, okay, so what did you start out doing? Or I should say, what helped you along the way to kind of gravitate toward this?
So my family owned a small factory with about 50 employees. My father never went to college. My uncles never went to college. They were just hard workers. They bullied their way through everything. And when I got out of school, it was the time when things were really starting to lose manufacturing to China and other areas of the world, and manufacturing started to tighten up, and you had to find solutions to automate, do better, faster. So my father, who was not educated, but one of the most clever people I'll ever know in my entire life, creative, inventive, fearless, no matter how many times people said, you can't do that. He did it. And he really just had a high school education. But he had confidence in himself, and he had confidence in his ideas and what he was doing. And he started to build machinery and equipment, and without any of the engineering skills or mechanical engineering skills, he started to build machinery that would help the factory move more quickly, faster, less people, all that stuff. So I watched what my father was doing literally from the time I was a little kid. My parents were divorced, so I was a weekend kid with my father, but in summers I would work in the factory and that kind of thing. And I was always amazed that he could do what he did and do better than the engineers, everybody. So when I went to school, I majored in bioengineering and minored in religion. Kind of strange, but when I got out of school, I for a while worked in the family business and sort of picked up on the building of machinery and equipment and that sort of thing. At some point when I was in my 20s, the factory ended up closing up, and I was kind of thrust out on my own. And I decided I wanted to keep building machinery and equipment. I love doing it. It's a very creative process. It requires a lot of your own skills, and when you see a machinery done and you realize you created that and you made it happen, I don't think there's any better feeling in the world. It's the greatest feeling you can imagine.
Now, I don't have a lot of knowledge regarding machinery, so when you say that you build a machine, what does the machine do?
So we specialize mostly in machinery for the container industry, the steel pail industry, steel drum, oil drum industry, anything that's a container. We build machinery and equipment to make those containers.
Okay.
Not make the containers, but the machinery and equipment that will handle, paint, weld those containers. So we build machines.
So you build machines, so this is not a factory that makes the drums or
Correct.
the containers themselves.
Correct. In order to broaden our horizons, we looked at our skills and said, okay, we're great at welding, we're great at fabrication, we're great at machining. What can we do to fill the void a little bit from the competition from China and India and some of these other countries? So we started job shopping, which means we take orders from other companies that need parts made for their machines or their equipment, or they need repairs done to their equipment, which requires building parts.
In your career, did you ever, let me see, how do I say this? Did you ever make a mistake that turned out to be something really cool?
So probably at least once a week, I make a mistake that can be a total disaster to the company. And about once a month, I make a mistake that proves to be, wow, that came out great. So I think it's a balance of risk taking that you have to have the courage to make the mistakes. If you don't have the courage to make the mistakes, you never find out the thing you could have done better.
And those mistakes are really how we educate ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I educated myself by making about 437,000 mistakes. We have a spirit here where I always want to take on new things, even if we don't make money. Which sometimes, like our employees will look at me sideways, like, you know that you're not going to make money doing this, you know. And I'll say, yeah, but it's the challenge because you're going to learn a new skill.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn a new process.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like working here, your employees would never stagnate mentally because you're always putting them in a situation like where they're going to have to kind of think their way out of it or just be really creative in spirit. So what sort of qualities do you look for in an employee?
there's a couple of things that catch my eye. The one thing that catches my eye, if somebody is constantly moving jobs, like they don't stick it out, I look for people that are willing to stay with a job for more than a year, even if they don't like it. Because you don't really know if you're going to fit in, you don't know if you're going to really like a job, you don't know if you're going to learn new skills. You don't learn that in 3 days. I look for people that are going to work as a team, that are going to allow other people to make mistakes so that they have forbearance for the guy sitting next to them, where when that guy makes a mistake, he's not going to get upset. If I make a mistake, I don't want him to be maliciously compliant. I want him to help me be on my team to correct my mistake. So when people make mistakes here, nobody gets yelled at. I don't even get upset. You made a mistake. What do you need to do to correct it? That's it. Businesses really can contribute very heavily towards the well-being of our country because, you know, when you work in a business that's got 38,000 people in it, it's very difficult to manage it to your heart.
I used to take apart bicycles.
Yeah.
And I used to dig other people's bicycles out of garbage.
Yeah.
And take all the parts off of them and make one cool bicycle, you know?
And you were just
And then,
naturally inclined
yeah,
to do that?
I just decided that I couldn't afford to buy one. My mom would say, no, we're not buying you another bike. We just bought you one last year.
Yeah.
So I had to make do with what I had. So I learned how to take things apart and put them together.
How are you going to successfully swim out of COVID-19 and quarantine?
Well, it's been challenging, but I started reading about the virus kind of before it hit the TV, and we started tightening our belt. The other thing was, I think that the government programs were a big help to small business. I mean, there was the PPP program, and there was, EIDL, and I think that those programs were very helpful. We didn't lay off one employee. There's not one employee in our place that missed 1 hour of pay, not one. We felt that the loyalty of those people was worth far more, again, than how do I get rich? It's not like that, not for me.
Bart, this has been a really great interview.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
I'm excited to see your machine shop.
Sure.
And thank you for being a part of our Bethlehem community.
Yep,
And
anytime.
It's a great small business to have here in Bethlehem. I'm native to Bethlehem, and I appreciate just the fact that you are the company that you are, and your management style that you are, and that you're employing people in our area. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.